FG begs resident doctors to call off 7-day warning strike. The federal government has appealed to members of the National Association of Resident Doctors to call off their 7-day warning strike. The Minister of State for Health, Dr. Tunji Alausa, made the call on Thursday in Kaduna during a visit to the National Eye Center. According to Mr. Alausa, negotiations are ongoing to ensure the safety of their kidnapped colleague, Dr. Ganiyat Popola. The minister said that the federal government and security agencies were working hard to rescue Ms. Popola, and he said that we don't believe this warning strike will do anything. All hands are on deck to secure her release. For the past 2 days, we know she is alive, and that is good news for us as the security agencies and are working hard to bring her back alive. Mr. Alausa added that the kidnappers kept changing their demands every moment, but the security agencies were working hard to see that she was safely rescued. I appeal to you, I quote, to call off the strike and let's keep praying that she comes back home in peace, the minister said. I had wanted to end what he said with praise the Lord, since the resolve of most of our leaders now is that we should pray for the country to become better. But then we need to clarify the fact that Nigeria is the only country, if not amongst the country, that prays for what they should be benefiting from. They pray for what the government is supposed to provide. If the government had provide enough security around the hospital facility, there won't be need for a doctor to be kidnapped. If there had been enough security in the states, in the country, in the community, there won't be need for us to be praying certain kind of prayers. Yes, we understand it is God that watch over us. We can't take the God factor out of it. But then we must understand that there are measures that can be put in place as leaders of a country to ensure that the life of your citizens are not jeopardized. And this is what the Nigerian government has actually failed at. So yes, we will pray to God, but at the same time, let's look at why the federal government has failed to prioritize the payment of salaries and benefits to resident doctors despite repeated promises. I believe the reason why these doctors are planning to go on this strike is not basically for it is not basically because this woman has been kidnapped. It is also because of other factors. You can't believe that in Nigeria, a Nigerian doctor is paid hazard allowance of 5,000 naira hazard allowance, where we have some of our senators earning 1.2 million naira per month as a cheap allowance. So you can imagine how well the Nigerian government prioritizes the life of their senators than the life of their health workers. In Nigeria alone, a Nigerian doctor cannot even boast of a 10 million naira annual payment, because even before their salary is paid, it gets into the middle of the second month. In Nigeria, a doctor who is doing housemanship is paid only 188,000 naira, while a doctor that is just doing NYSC, including the alawi, is paid 72,000 naira. A junior doctor working in a government hospital is earning less than 300,000 naira in a month, and the allowances that is going to these doctors is not even up to the allowances that goes to our senators, the people who are doing the major work of safeguarding the lives and property of people in the country. So you can see that the Nigerian government itself is the one, herself is the one putting the life of the Nigerian workers at jeopardy, and you wonder why we are where we are in the country. So how can the federal government then justify begging resident doctors to call off the strike rather than addressing the underlying issues? The underlying issues here is the case of insecurity. There was a documentary from Arise TV where they mentioned that there is hardly a month where you don't get to see kidnapping happening in the state. Yet, the governor of Zamfara state came out and said that they can actually combat insecurity in the case of 2 weeks. Yet, he has been in office for 1 year and insecurity is still a thing in the country. So if we don't want a repeat of all of this problem, you don't want your doctors to go on strike, you have to address the underlying issues that led to the strike. Address insecurity, pay doctors their salaries, increase their allowances, improve on their healthcare. How can a doctor be earning 5,000 naira hazard allowance in Nigeria when we have our leaders earning over 700,000 naira as newspaper allowance, newspapers that they don't even read, a cheap allowance that is half the amount they are earning as their basic salary? That is excluding other incentives that goes to them. Just imagine that a medical doctor in Nigeria does not even have an health insurance. These are underlying factors that the Nigerian government can actually address. And then to the case of insecurity and all of that. But then it is also a good time to talk about the government's plan to address the systemic issues in the healthcare sector, which include the poor working conditions and lack of equipment. There has been reports over time as regards to lack of equipment in Nigerian owned hospital, general hospitals for that to say. I personally know someone who is supposed to who had wanted to extract her tooth. Then she was asked to go and do an X-ray of something. And the general hospital that was recommended does not even have the machine to conduct the X-ray. And in the whole of Ibejuleki, there was no hospital, there was no general hospital in the whole of Ibejuleki that they could conduct the X-ray. They had to go to a private owned hospital to perform the X-ray. So what does that tell of the Nigerian government in improving on equipment, in improving on the equipment that is required? Earlier in January, there was a report of a man who had come into Nigeria to visit his family. He sleep on the stairways and fell down, was taken to a Nigerian owned hospital, a government owned hospital, and they were saying some of the equipment that is needed, they have to go and rent it. The hospital cannot even afford to pay to get that equipment. They had to rent it from outside. And after they rented this particular machine, there was no doctor to operate it. They said the doctor is on shift in another hospital. So there is lack of personnel. And why do we lack personnel? We lack personnel because the Nigerian government are not taking care of the health workers in Nigeria. Hence, they are leaving the country. So the few ends that we have, they are being underpaid. Ends, they run shifts. So that is why you go to some hospitals today, they will say the doctor is not on seat. The doctor has gone on another shift in another hospital. If at all the Nigerian government is paying well, it is not bad that a Nigerian doctor is only running one shift. When they are being paid well, they can use the rest of their time to rest ahead of the time that they will be on duty. So there are a lot of underlying issues that the Nigerian government are not addressing. Yet you are telling these people not to go on strike. Why won't they go on strike? By the time they come out for this strike, that is when you see that it is not only the case of kidnapping that they are going on strike for. There are also other issues. The poor working condition of the Nigerian workers. The reason why the Nigerian workers are leaving the country. Even the Nigerian government making it really, really unbearable for those people to even stay back in the country to continue to work. So how does the Nigerian government want to justify the plea that they are pleading to these people? What reasons do they want to what sweet talk do they want to give to these people as regards to why they should not go on this strike? Beyond going on strike, they should as well address other underlying factors that these people are saying on the background beyond the case of the woman, one of the medical doctors in Nigeria that was kidnapped. Also, let's move on to the final laps of this conversation. Let's look at how the federal government can justify its claim of prioritizing the health sector when it has failed to address the concerns of healthcare workers and improve the sector. We have bodies overseeing these places. There has been complaints back to back as regards to Nigerian government hospital. And we wonder if this complaint are actually not reaching the head of this department. Actually, after all, we have the NMA to oversee what happened in general hospitals. They collect money, they collect their incentives that goes to this departments year in, year out. There are allocations to them. If at all they get this allocation, which of the body oversees and ensure that the money that is allocated to these people, they make use of this money for the right cause, and the Nigerian health workers do not have to complain for payment of salaries. They don't have to complain for agreements that are not, they don't have to complain for agreements that are breached and all of that. There has to be a body that oversees these things, and it calls for accountability of the Nigerian government. You can't keep paying people, yet they are not delivering the duties that you are paying them for. There has to be a body that oversees and ensure that we are paying you for these things. Where are the things that you said you had wanted to purchase? Let us see a picture. Let us see a picture evidence of this equipment that you have bought. Let us see the receipt that shows that you paid the salary of these healthcare workers. Let us see the receipt that shows that you pay the allowances that is to be allocated to these health workers. You make sure that this is for accountability's sake. So when the Nigerian workers come out and when the Nigerian health care workers come out and say that we are not being paid, then you can tender that receipt to them, that this receipt shows that you receive your payment. So who should we question now? The Nigerian workers, the healthcare workers have clarified themselves that we did not receive any payment. Then you can then question the people in charge of that department. So all of this systematic approach are the things that the federal government can actually deploy to ensure that the Nigerian government, the Nigerian healthcare workers receive their payments as at when due. And as regards to insecurity, we have a lot. We have the Ministry of Defense, we have the NIA, we have the DSS, we have the police, we have the community vigilantes and all of that. All of these people, sometimes we wonder what their duty is. We wonder what they are actually doing, and right in your own nose, somebody was kidnapped and you can't even account for it. How were they able to do that? And it is also a call for the Nigerian government to improve on technology. This woman she wasn't alone when she was kidnapped. She was kidnapped at a spot. If there are technology that are deployed at this spot, I mean, there are places where we have traffic lights, our cameras even working. People make use of vehicles. There are plate numbers that they can use to trace the whereabouts of that vehicle. There are ways she uses a phone that they can use to track her last location. Sometimes we wonder whether our intelligence in Nigeria is actually working as they ought to. So there are a lot of questions that is on the heart of Nigerians as regards to what they are doing to improve on technology in Nigeria. So on this note, this is all that we will be able to take on the newspaper review segment right here at Prime Media TV. But we would like to hear your thoughts as well on the Nigerian government's plea to the government healthcare workers not to go on strike. On on how can they justify this plea to the healthcare workers? What can they do at this point to calm the nerves of these healthcare workers not to go on this strike, because currently the life of one of their colleagues is at stake. We would like to hear your thoughts on all our social media platform. If you're watching us on Facebook, we're Prime Media TV. On Instagram and TikTok, we're Prime Media Studio. On the website where you're currently watching us, we're enginespeak.com, and you can do well to follow us on YouTube at Enginespeak. I am Ayo. Until I come your way again tomorrow on the newspaper review segment, please stay with us and have a great day.